Hello there everyone and welcome back. Here we are with something a bit new today. This is a Magic Online Phantom Draft, a cube draft, a legacy cube specifically. So for those unaware, these are cards from all manner of sets throughout Magic's history, and because this is a legacy cube, these are cards that are legal in Legacy, and therefore we will not be playing with cards that are banned or only available in Vintage and other formats, such as the Power 9 and other various cards like Balance and Mind Twist. Those will not be showing up, but we still get to play with some very powerful cards, lots of fun different archetypes. The cube has just come up and will actually be present for at least this run through. It comes back and forth often through the month of September. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Two of my preferred strategies are big green decks, such as Avenger of Zendikar. This is one of the better finishers, and blue-based control decks, whether they are reanimators or just straight control. I lean towards blue and control decks. I'm actually just going to take the Ancestral Vision. This is not the kind of card that you want to draw late in the game. If it's in your opener, though, and your deck is well put together, there's a very good chance you have of winning. Whereas the thing like Avenger of Zendikar, that's also a very powerful and effective card. But just as far as deck preference goes, I'm much more keen on playing a blue-based control deck, particularly Reanimator. That is my favorite strategy, and I am not above forcing it if I can. So on that note, to follow up our Ancestral Vision, there is a Muldrifter, naturally. This goes very well along with Reveliarch with the Evoke value creatures that do things when they enter the battlefield. You can evoke them for just kind of a one-time cash-in and lose the creature. We also have Necromancy, Ravenous, Chupacabra, and Makeshift Mannequin that all do different things related to reanimation. Chupacabra also is just a good creature to have in that it can kill things, but there are better ways to achieve that effect. I'm probably going to take the Necromancy. Both of these are very, very good. They're not the best reanimation spells necessarily. I don't think there is any one reanimation spell that's best in all situations. Necromancy is great because you can cast it as an instant. So if you're playing against an opponent that is also on the reanimation plan, you can beat them to it when they go to reanimate their creature. You can steal it out from under them. You can also, this is a very cheap one, cheaper than the Makeshift Mannequin, so there are different reasons for both, but I'm going to go ahead and follow up our Vision with a Necromancy. And now, unfortunately, we kind of whiff on this pack. There's no ways to put creatures into the graveyard, there's no good creatures to reanimate, and there are no reanimation spells. So unfortunately, we'll probably have to take a medium thing to follow this up with like a Necrotol. Again, this is much like a Ravenous Chupacabra, just almost strictly weaker. First Strike is relevant in some cases, but this misses artifact and black creatures. There's also Inquisition of Kozilek, which we can use to clear the way of like a counter spell or removal spell. So between those two, I'm actually going to take the Inquisition. I don't think either is particularly desirable, and ideally will not make our deck, but we'll take what we have to. Here, still not what we're really looking for, but there's not much else that would sway me from just trying to pursue the strategy. There's a Dark Confidant, which is a threat that can also draw you some cards, hopefully not killing you in the process. There's Venser, Shaper Savant, which is a very nice way to interact with the opponent. You can use this just to bounce the opponent's creature or bounce back your own creature or necromancy if need be. So a very versatile creature that can potentially get in there and do some damage as well, but that's typically not his function. There's also some Goblin Dark Dwellers that let you recast cheap spells. I think actually with the Ancestral Vision they'll just immediately recast it. I'm going to go ahead and just take the Venser though. And this is more like it. This is what we're talking about. Lots of things here to look at that are promising as far as being in the right colors. First of all, there's a Watery Grave. You can never have too much good mana, I don't think. And this is a dual land in the two colors we're most keen to play. There's also black and white can pair. It's generally going to be a base black deck for all the reanimation, but you can also have red and white along with black. But I just happen to like the blue the best. So there's Watery Grave, there's Sower of Temptation, which takes our opponent's creatures. There's the Locust God, who draws you, as you draw cards, he creates little threats, and he can on-demand draw cards, and he's somewhat resilient, rather. There's also Sheoldred, which is what I'm going to be taking. She is a creature that can win on her own, 6/6, sometimes unblockable if your opponent has a swamp. At the beginning of your opponent's upkeep, they sacrifice a creature. Beginning of your upkeep, you reanimate a creature. So that's pretty much exactly what we're looking for. A recursive reanimation ability on a pretty difficult to deal with creature. Seems like what we want. Here, once again, good mana. There's Creeping Tar Pit. Actually can also be used to deal with planeswalkers or something that you will otherwise lose to. If not a land, I would probably take Gonti, Lord of Luxury, or Force of Will. Again, Force of Will and free counters like Pact of Negation, Daze, those are great when you're all in on a reanimation plan, because if you lose out on the reanimation, it gets countered or the creature gets exiled, you're down a bunch of cards because you had to use a few to achieve that effect. So Force of Will is great. I'm going to take the Tar Pit though, again, just for mana consistency, and it's a threat in itself, but really it's just for the mana. It can be a bit demanding to have the adequate colors here, although Force of Will would have been a fine pick as well. Reanimation, as far as it's concerned, a Phyrexian Obliterator, it's a fine creature, but not really what you want. If you could pick between a Sheoldred or a Sundering Titan or a Gristlebrand, there are far better things to reanimate. So it's really just a Murderous Cut or a Seagate Oracle. Neither is all that exciting. I suppose I'll just take the Oracle to try and keep up with ways to find our creature. It's interesting. Reanimation is extremely powerful, but it can be difficult to have all the pieces come together. You need a big creature to reanimate, and you need the spell, but you also need a way to put it into the graveyard. Something like Entomb or Faithless Looting or Careful Study, none of which we have just yet. Here there's an Ugin the Spirit Dragon, unfortunately with no picture. Very powerful planeswalker, but unfortunately cannot reanimate them. Bogardan Hellkite is actually a pretty decent reanimation target, so I might take that. It's either that or just a Fatal Push. I'll go ahead and take the dragon. Usually I like having a suite of creatures that you can pull out for almost any situation, whether you need something that answers a threat on the board, like an Elesh Norn or a Bogardan Hellkite, kills planeswalkers or creatures. Massacre Worm is another good one. Or if you need something that will protect you, like a Gristlebrand or a Mere Battlesphere, there's lots of different things to choose from, so it's nice having kind of one of each situation. Here, Maze of Ith, Karmic Guide. Actually, Karmic Guide is not horrific here. I'm going to take the Stratus Dancer, though, as this is an uncounterable way to counter certain things for very cheap mana, and while itself being a moderate threat, it's potentially a 3/2 flyer. And when it's turned face up, it counters an instant or sorcery, so generally our opponent's counterspell. Here, the Makeshift Mannequin actually came back around. For those that missed it, it returns a creature card from grave to battlefield with a counter on it that essentially makes it an illusion. It is a reanimation effect, but it makes it a little vulnerable. If you Makeshift Mannequin something, they can just target it with anything, even like a bounce spell, and it will end up going back to the grave, but that's fine. Here there's a Baral who makes some spells like Mannequin a little bit cheaper. There's also a very expensive counterspell in Dismiss, and there's the Black Cleave Cliffs. I'm just going to take Baral. The Cliffs would have been fine for splashing something like an Electrolyze, but we're not really looking to do that. I will probably take it, however. Wall of Omens, I doubt we really need the use of walls. If we can keep the colors down to just 2 with a free splash, I'd rather free splash and Electrolyze than a wall. Careful Consideration is great in that it's instant speed, but it doesn't have to be for the Reanimator. It draws you 4 cards and then you discard 3 unless you cast it during your main phase, then you draw 4, discard 2. Here I'm going to take the Kira. Actually, Faithless Looting is a pretty playable card for what we're trying to do. This is great for reanimating, but in any case, Kira, not something I really want, but she gives you a little bit of protection for whatever you're investing all of your reanimation into by giving it essentially a double life. They have to first target it with something that's immediately countered before they can answer it. Ideally with like a Murderous Cut or a Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares. They need to break through the Kira bubble first. Not going to help with something that's brought back by a Makeshift Mannequin, but still fine. Here we have Arcane Artisan and Buried Alive, both of which I would very much like to have. I don't know which one is more likely to wheel. Buried Alive is very strong and lets you put up to 3 creatures into the grave. So you can pick 3 and then just have access to them for the rest of the game when you draw your Necromancies and Mannequins. There's also Arcane Artisan, who isn't necessarily a reanimator, but very effective. The way that this works, it's a new addition to the cube. The way that this works is you draw a card, exile a card, and if it was a creature, you actually get a copy, a token of that card, but dies if the Arcane Artisan does. I think the Buried Alive is going to come back. I'm going to take the Arcane Artisan. I hope that's correct, but I'm curious to play with this card, honestly. I'm curious which one of those was the better pick. They're both very close. We already have ways to get things into the graveyard with Careful Consideration and discarding to hand size with everything. But if we just have the creature in hand, we can bypass the need for a reanimation spell. So this kind of hits both of our bases. Well, there is a Griselbrand here. I'm going to go ahead and take that, but interesting to see what else is in the pack that might come back around. Angel of Serenity, not the best reanimation creature, but strong. She gets to exile 3 creature cards from battlefield or graveyard, and if she dies or leaves the battlefield for any reason, they are returned to hand. Or excuse me, returned to, yes, the hand. So she can answer your opponent's creatures, killing tokens forever. They don't get those back. Or can rebuy some of your things if you needed it. That's unlikely. But yeah, it's hard to argue with a Griselbrand here. This is exactly what we want. If we can get like 2, maybe 3 more things that reanimate, creatures to reanimate, I think we'll be set. This is a interesting choice. It's between Una's Prowler and the Underground Sea, also Verdant Catacombs, but I'd rather take the sea sooner than the Catacombs, of course. Underground Sea, the best dual land we could ask for. Una's Prowler is a great discard outlet. Just a 2-drop, 3-power flyer, and you can, at will, no cost required, discard any of the big creatures to the graveyard and then reanimate them the following turn, or that same turn. It's cheap enough. But any player can activate this ability, interestingly, so your opponent can actually discard to shrink this creature. I think that's more likely to come back than the Underground Sea. I really want the Prowler. I think I just can't take the risk. The Sea is not going to come back, which is very sad. I mean, we got a Griselbrand pretty late, and Makeshift Mannequin made it all the way around. We might be the only reanimator. I'm going to take a risk here and take the Sea. Much as I hate to pass up on something we very much want, I love mana, so we'll take the Underground Sea there. Hopefully that is the correct pick that we're rewarded for later. Here we have a Vampire Nighthawk, great against the mono red and white decks. Flying Death Touch Lifelinker. This has been a terror in almost every draft format it's ever been printed in. There's also Jace Beleren and Profane Command. This technically does reanimate, but not the way you really want to. I mean, Necromancy, Makeshift, being able to free cast essentially an 7 or 8 drop. Profane Command, you have to actually pay the converted mana cost +2, whereas Jace Beleren is a nice little way to just draw some cards, generally for yourself for a few turns, and then you can start plussing it if you need to. Profane Command, though, has a bunch of other versatile modes, answering a creature, a threat, or gaining some, or just killing your opponent with like a black fireball. I didn't reserve it apparently though, so we have a Xenagos. Not really what we wanted, but I guess we're stuck with him. Neither of those cards was particularly exciting, the Jace Beleren or the Profane Command, but I would have much rather had either than the Xenagos, but we'll deal with it. There's an Old Man of the Sea, a Counterspell, and a Wretched Confluence. Again, all 3 kind of similar in terms of use. Also a Phyrexian Revoker, I suppose, for dealing with Planeswalkers. The Confluence is nice in that it, again, is versatile, much like the Command. You can draw some cards with it. You can bring back creatures from grave to hand. Also Counterspell and the Revoker. I think I'm just going to take the Counterspell, and a lot of our deck functions at instant speed. We can reanimate at instant speed with the Arcane Artisan, not actually reanimate, but make tokens. There's Careful Consideration, Necromancy, and Makeshift Mannequin. They all work at instant speed. In case it wasn't clear earlier, though, I will address that Necromancy, while you can cast it as a flash spell, you then sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step, unfortunately. So you can do it on your opponent's end step, and then you get to swing in with the creature on your turn, but you won't get to stick around as if you had reanimated it the normal way. Impulse is great, but I'm going to take the Pack Rat here. In addition to just being, again, another terror of limited formats, it can win the game all by itself, but it's also a discard outlet, which we do need some of. Here we have a Kalitas, Trader of Get, great against, again, mono red decks. It's a 3/4 lifelinker. They have to waste a burn spell dealing with it. If they don't, then they likely can't win, unless you're already extremely low, as he's, again, 3 power lifelink, and if any of your opponent's creatures die, they're exiled, and you get a 2/2 black zombie token, and he can grow himself as well. There's a Magister of Worth, Malicious Affliction, Nightveil Spectre. There's some good things here. I think it's between the Kalitas and the Nightveil Spectre. Spectre is a nice little threat, and it's in our color, so it's easy enough to cast. I'm going to go ahead and take it. In control matchups, this is pretty solid in that it will help you make your land drops, even if they're off color. Land is land. And it's a flying, evasive creature, so you can win the game with it. Again, not very likely to happen, but it's okay for what it does. Here we have some good ones, the Solemn Simulacrum, Cryptic Command, and the Looter Ilkor. The Looter is nice in that it kind of fulfills the same role as like a Pack Rat and Nightveil Spectre in that it draws you cards while putting things in the grave. There's also Cryptic Command, though. I like both of these. I'm going to take the Cryptic. I don't know if that is correct. It's between that and the Mannequin, I think, but Cryptic Command being so versatile. I feel like I'm saying that quite a bit in this draft, but can counter a spell, return your opponent's creatures or your own Necromancy back to hand, and recycle it. You can draw cards, you can tap down your opponent's attackers or blockers, but probably their attackers to buy you a turn. Buried Alive did come back. That's a good way to put these guys in the grave. There's also Demon Lord Belzenlock to go with Gristlebrand. Just a flying trampler that draws you some cards, maybe. I'm going to take the Buried Alive, though. Did come back after all. Skinrender, Siege Gang Commander, not all that exciting without red mana. Angel Serenity, not the best reanimation target. Hopefully we get some good ones in the last pack, but I'll take it. And Una's Prowler came back. So I think it is safe to say we're probably the only reanimators here. We didn't get the Profane Command, funnily, but Jace Beleren did come back. So I'll happily take him. And a Rishadan Port. And a Steam Vents, I guess. And the Gargadon. Alright. So we're looking for some of the cheap animate spells. Reanimate, for what it's named for. Animate Dead are the 2 better ones that we could still get. There's also Entomb, which is one of the best ways to put a creature into the graveyard. It's just a single black mana, search for any card and put it in the grave. You can easily follow that up with any reanimation spell after, just about. It's so cheap. We are actually mostly looking for creatures, though. Something like a Sundering Titan. Avenger of Zendikar is fine, but we already know that we won't be getting that one, sadly, as it was in our first pack and we did not take it. I think we took the Ancestral Vision over it. But Sundering Titan or Terastodon would be pretty great right about now. Here we have Liliana the Veil. She is great if you can alter, but she also has a nice +1 that helps you put your creatures into the graveyard for reanimation, and she also can kill opponent's creatures. So I think it's between a Shriekmaw that we can just evoke like Muldrifter to kill like a Necrotal, kill a non-artifact, non-black creature. There's a Negate, a Sleight of Hand, and Liliana. Hopefully we get the Dark Slick Shores back. Don't know how likely that is, but I'll go ahead and take the Liliana. I think that having a fun Planeswalker can't hurt our deck. Gray Merchant, Whip of Erebos. Actually hadn't considered that as a reanimation spell, but here it is. There's also Hornet Queen, Snapcaster Mage. Relic is something very good against us. Hopefully we don't have to combat anyone with one. But I'm going to take the Whip here. This is a nice way to reanimate creatures. Only works as a sorcery, and it's only for the 1 turn, but that can be good enough with like a hasty Begarden Hellkite that hits the opponent for 5 when it enters, or Sheoldred coming back just for that final bit of damage. Yeah, I'll take a Whip of Erebos happily. Alright, there's Entomb, also a Metamorph, and a Part the Waterveil. Yeah, this is definitely going to be an Entomb. Metamorph, I very much doubt will come back around. It looks like a blue card, but any deck can play it, really. just as a 3 mana and 2 life. You can clone anything. Yeah, Part the Water Veil, Scrap Heap Ground. There's some good aggressive cards. The Rift Bolt and Grim Lavamancer are still in here. But yeah, Entomb is exactly what we want. I'm going to go ahead and take that and be very happy about it. Bitter Blossom, Slaughter Pact, Vendilion Click, Serum Visions. Still haven't really seen any really impressive reanimation targets except for Gristlebrand. There's usually like 3 or 4 that you always want to get if you can. Sundering Titan's probably the best that we could still get right about now. That card is absolutely busted in Reanimator. I think I might just take the Click or the Blossom. Blossom is nice in that it just creates a tide of chump blockers. If we're against an aggressive deck, it's kind of a double-edged sword, however. You're paying life every turn to get these blockers, so it's not really what you want to be doing. Serum Visions and Vendilion Click might enable our game plan a bit better. Vendilion Click probably the better of the two. I'm just going to go ahead and take it. Alright, this is a bit more like it. Unfortunately, they're all together. So there's Mere Battlesphere, which can kill an opponent very quickly while also giving you a bunch of things left over for artifact creature tokens, 1/1s, but they can do the job in blocking. There's Massacre Worm, which wipes the opponent's board sometimes and deals a bunch of damage to them whenever creatures die. There's Frost Titan, who is difficult to deal with. They have to pay an extra 2 mana to target him with anything. And Careful Study, which is great for getting you what you need while putting things in where they belong. You can draw 2 cards and then discard 2 things to reanimate, all for 1 mana. That is really unfortunate. They're all together. I guess it means there's a small chance we'll get one of them back. Maybe Careful Study, maybe Frost Titan. Those are probably the 2 of the weaker things. I'm going to take the Battlesphere and just hope that we get one of them back, because any of those cards I would be happy to add to our deck. Mana Confluence for the mana, Factor Fiction, Dungeon Geists, Dark Petition. These are all acceptable, but I think I'll just take the Factor Fiction. It's nice in that reveal a bunch of cards, opponent separates them into 2 piles, we put 1 in the hand, 1 in the grave. They kind of have to decide, do they just put all of our good cards in 1 pile, meaning our reanimation spells, and then all the things we want to reanimate in the other pile, or do they give some kind of mix of both? Either way, we generally get what we want. So for, again, operating at instant speed, we can hold up a Cryptic Command or a Careful Consideration or a Venser and still have access to Factor Fiction. Teferi, Mage of Zhalfir, means it's impossible for your opponent to counter things outside of like a Stratus Dancer. Opponents can only play things at sorcery speed. He can flash in at the end of the opponent's turn, and our creatures that are in hand have flash, so our opponent's always guessing. There's a Sun Titan who can get back some things, not really what we want, and Preordain. Scry 2, draw a card. I guess it's between Teferi and Preordain. Teferi is nice, but not really what we need here. I'm going to go ahead and just take the Preordain to try and increase the likelihood of our cheap wins, and like turn 2 or 3 victories where we can dump something and draw into our reanimation. There's the Sundering Titan. I almost passed over it. I got excited about the Drowned Catacomb. Surprised to see a Craterhoof Behemoth still in here. This is like the best finisher in mono green. This plus an Avenger of Zendikar it's very difficult to lose if you get both those cards together and can cast them. But here's the almighty Sundering Titan. We are good to go now. When he enters or leaves the battlefield, you choose lands of every basic type and blow them all up. It is not unreasonable to kill 3 of your opponent's lands, maybe 1 of your own, every time this guy comes in the battlefield or dies, or gets bounced, or anything. If he leaves for any reason, he's taking a bunch of lands with him. So that is amazing to have. The Darkslick Shores did come back. I think this is the first pack. So yeah, it's between that or a Fire and Ice that we could splash, but yeah, happily take the Darkslick Shores. Sulphur Falls, Relic, Grey Merchant. I doubt we're actually going to splash the Electrolyze or Faithless Looting, in which case we want the Sulphur Falls. If we do, I'm going to take the Relic. It's just another hedge against the Mirror Match, I suppose. I guess I could take the Grey Merchant just for some added life gain against them. I'm more worried about enemy reanimators than mono red, I think, so I'll go ahead and just take that. And apart the Water Veil. These are all kind of the dregs. Another red land, I'll take the Serum Visions. Careful Study came back as well. Okay. So this worked out very nicely. I'm going to take that over the Frost Titan, or whatever the other blue card might have been. I think this worked out very nicely. We have ways to draw cards, put things into the graveyard, bring them back, and we have a very nice selection of things to bring back. Probably don't need the Angel of Serenity, but the Hellkite, Griselbrand, Battlesphere, Sundering Titan, Shieldred, they all have different places where they're going to excel. And I'm very happy to have gotten each of them. We've got quite a few cuts to make, however. We'll try and trim the fat as best we can and get the most reanimation positive deck that we can. Sadly, we did not get Reanimate or Animate Dead. Either of those two, I think, would have made this deck almost perfect. But I won't complain with what we got. Start some of these cuts already, probably. Just the absolute things we don't need to play with can go first, and we might be able to bring some of them back. But in general, these are, okay, let's see what the absolute minimum would be. Cards that I know for a fact we're going to want to play. So yeah, just anything that has to deal with reanimation or facilitating reanimation, bringing things back for cheap. Okay, this is a deck right here. The only things that I would consider bringing back are the Preordain and Serum Visions, and Inquisition of Kozilek are a little bit of extra card selection better than what we have here. Honestly, I don't really think so. Jace Beleren I could probably do without. He's basically the same as a Preordain or Serum Visions. Preordain is just going to be better than Serum. Aside from that, I could maybe see cutting one of the heavier card draw things like Careful Consideration, or I guess Cryptic Command is a bit tighter on the mana. But I think I like what we have here. I think I want to play 23 and 17 lands, even though our deck can probably get by with as few as 16 lands. Especially if we added like a Serum Vision, that's the one addition I would consider in that case. I think this is fine. Oh, whoops, I need to add lands, I suppose. This is suggesting, well, 2 reds, we can do without that. 7 blue, 8 black. And then we have the Tar Pit, the Dark Slick, and the Underground Sea. So I can probably, yeah, just add those 3 actually. Don't really need the Rishadan Port or the Steam Vents for like an Electrolyze or a Faithless Looting. Looting would be nice, but I think we just want to be as streamlined as possible. I like it a lot. I think this is going to be the deck, and hopefully we get some fun draws to show the absurdity of a turn 2 or 3 Sundering Titan. Unfortunately, we can't actually turn 2 one. The earliest we can reanimate is with Necromancy or Mannequin, and then Whip of Erebos. Definitely needed some more reanimators, but we'll take what we got. And with that, we will be back in just a moment for match 1. Stay tuned, everybody. Thanks for watching. Alrighty, here we are. Someone with an excellent character portrait. We are on the play. Let's see what we got. Alright. Not the perfect mix, but definitely keepable. We have the Ancestral Visions on turn 1. That's great. We can Buried Alive or Arcane Artisan, depending on what we find. If we find a big creature, we can just keep it in hand and use the Artisan to cheat it out. If we don't, we find a reanimation spell, we can Bury It Alive and bring them back that way. So here I'm just going to, I don't need double black for any reason, I'm just going to go ahead and suspend the visions. And the next turn probably just play out like a Tar Pit. Oh boy, alright, we might be against just a straight blue-black control deck or another reanimator. We will see what our opponent has in store. It's Hodor time, apparently. Our opponent chose not to shuffle. They don't necessarily know that we are reanimating. Alright, so the way that this is going to shape up, I think, is we're going to try to turn 3 Arcane Artisan, and then turn 4 we have a Griselbrand. Our opponent doesn't reanimate before then, which is possible. They have the Pack Rat, but they have to pay 3 mana to put something into the graveyard. And we have a Una's Prowler now. I'm actually going to hold off on the Sea in case we get a Sundering Titan. We can blow up our opponent's Underground Sea and Swamp. We don't have to destroy our own swamp for any reason. I think we're alright either way. It's nice when you're playing against people of the same colors, because you'll generally get to blow up their lands only with the Titan, not your own. So if our opponent is just thirsting here, we can pull out a Griselbrand pretty much with impunity, and we'll at least get to draw some cards with it. It will take all of our mana, sadly. Our opponent with the Scarab God. Alright, so they're probably setting up a reanimation next turn. They are definitely reanimating, though, I feel. And we got the Mannequin. So I'm actually going to wait. I can at any time bring out Griselbrand. If our opponent wants to waste their whole turn next turn, however, with the reanimation on the Scarab God, I can just Mannequin it. It's not ideal, because if they can target the Scarab God and kill it, then it will be returned to our opponent's hand. But it'll at least get rid of one of their reanimation spells. And nothing else, we can just get the Griselbrand out. And use it to draw a bunch of cards that we then untap with and have a bunch of mana for. We'll see what our opponent has, though. Scarab God is a great threat against us, however, as it's hard to deal with in our colors, and because it can reanimate our own creatures at instant speed for only 5 mana. Alright, our opponent's going for it, it looks like. They're entombing something big. We'll get a look at that. And then it looks like a Sheoldred. Okay. So they were not in the same... We already knew about that. Alright, so they're going to Necromancy. And when it enters the battlefield, it becomes an aura with enchanted creature. So, interesting. I'm not sure how to respond to that. They're going to... I would guess that they would take Sheoldred. In which case, I can take Sheoldred from them first. Do I get to respond to this when it enters? I don't think I do. I think as it enters the battlefield, it's immediately enchanting something. That feels wrong, though. I thought I would get to respond to it. I don't want to take that chance, so I'm actually just going to, if I may, I'd like to use my Mannequin, but it's not letting me. Instant return a creature from your graveyard. What am I doing? Okay, I apologize for that, everyone. I didn't read the Mannequin very closely. I needed my own Necromancy, but I think we're still okay because we'll get to Griselbrand here. And this way we'll get to see if this immediately enchants. It does not. Alright. So if I had a way to exile their graveyard now, we would be set. Instead, I'm just going to get out my Griselbrand. And I can draw a bunch of cards now. We're going to have to discard to, or sacrifice a creature on our upkeep to Sheoldred. We'll see what happens, though. Yeah, so there's my Sundering Titan. I think we're going to be fine. We have the tools we need here. Our opponent does have a Sheoldred, but we can deal with it with any number of ways, really. I could also entomb out a Begarden Hellkite. I don't really care about that. I already drew the Sundering Titan, so I needed to discard that to like a Prowler, and then next turn I can Necromancy it back. There's lots of things that we can do here. I think we're going to be fine. If I want to, I can do that all at instant speed and blow up all of our opponent's lands. That seems pretty good. They'll be left with a Sheoldred and the Griselbrand, and I will be left with that. But they'll have their lands in play, so yeah, I think we're good. This is going to be interesting. I don't even need to use the Entomb here. I don't believe. Oh, I do need to get it to the grave somehow, and I can't. Okay. I can use the Artisan, however. What am I debating over this for? So let's do that. Bring out the Titan. Blow up our opponent's lands. Now we have to sacrifice a creature. I think I'll take the Titan. Blow up our opponent's lands. And I guess we could Ancestral Vision as well. Why not? We can draw as many cards as we feel inclined to do. Alright, so our opponent has these two things, and they will be able to get back a Scarab God next turn, but I think we'll be fine with the Cryptic Command, things like that. I can also get back a, what I still have to reanimate. The Inferno Titan, Mirror Battle Sphere. I thought we had one more good one. There's also Shieldred. We can get any of these things pretty easily. Entomb, we can get one of the artifacts, I guess. Yeah, so let's go ahead and attack with Griselbrand. And we can play our own land and maybe just Una's Prowler. We can discard whatever we want right now because of hand size, of course. But I think I like getting the creature down, especially we can use it to block a pack rat if we have to. It's unlikely though. I guess the one downside is now our opponent can shoot, I should not have done that. I realized because our opponent can discard cards and then bring them back with Shieldred. I think we're okay. But that was definitely a mistake. I did not need to give them outs. I don't think it's going to make a difference, but we'll see. Here I can just discard some land. I don't really need Fact or Fiction. I don't really need the Buried Alive when I have Entomb. Don't need all this land. I could remove the Shieldred. I can do that at any time with Una's Prowler. Whereas having it in hand gives me a way to use it with the Arcane Artisan. So let's just keep on discarding land. And I doubt we need this Entomb or the Click. Right. I apologize for that. I did not need to play the Prowler. Our opponent could discard something here. That would be a problem, but I think we'll be okay. I have a Scarab God, but it doesn't really do a whole lot against Griselbrand and what we have in hand. Not attacking with the Shieldred for some reason. Maybe just to keep as a blocker. Okay. I will go ahead and just sack the Prowler now. There's Battle Ball. Alright, let's go ahead and keep attacking with Griselbrand. And we could bounce the Shieldred. They don't have anything to get back with it except the Looter Ilkor. And they're just dead next turn to the Griselbrand, so I'd rather just leave back Cryptic Command, I suppose, as a counterspell. Yeah, I don't really need anything here. There's nothing to draw into, I don't think. That would be better for me. So we'll just go ahead and pass with Cryptic and Necromancy and things like that at the ready. I could also draw a million cards with Griselbrand still. Reanimate my Vendilion Click. I could steal it with Necromancy. I could also just counter this, which is more or less likely to blow up in my face. They decide not to bother waiting. We had lots of things that we could still do there, but yeah, still learning the ropes. Some misplays here and there, but we're okay. Things to bring in, I think, are going to be the Nightveil Spectre, possibly an Inquisition, hits our opponent's Reanimate. Maybe a counterspell. Angel of Serenity actually is pretty good because it can exile our opponent's reanimated things, and then if they deal with the Angel, it just goes back to the hand, so it's not as easy for them to reanimate. What do we not need here? On the draw, we don't really need the Ancestral Vision, and I'm reluctant to actually play something like Una's Prowler. It's good for us to discard, but definitely need something that can hopefully not help our opponent as well. I am a bit concerned about the Makeshift Mannequin. I can't believe I missed that very important bit of text, but now we know for the next time. We're fairly well set up for the mirror, actually. I'll bring in the Angel and an Inquisition, I think, and a Nightveil Spectre. I'll take out the Prowler, and I will actually probably lose a land as well. I think this should be satisfactory. Let's try this out for size. So Makeshift Mannequin is not the mirror breaker. I think Necromancy is, as well as Scarab God. You want things that work at instant speed, so that you can take it from out underneath your opponent. We'll definitely keep this. We can get to Necromancy. I think we'll be safe. One thing to always consider is that you can on the draw in a match like this, you can just pass without playing your land on turn 1, so you discard your thing to hand size. That is not what we're going to be doing against our opponent, however, because they have Reanimate, and they could just take it out from underneath us. I'm not going to use the Inquisition either until next turn. Hopefully we draw a land soon. Okay, there's the Looter, so now it's time we have to worry about our opponent having a big fatty that they discard to the Looter and then necromancing it back. So let's try and take that if they do. Let's also show and tell. Okay, so they had Emrakul that they probably would have liked to bring back to show and tell. And there's Demon Lord Belzenlock and some lands. That's really not that big of a concern. We have 2 ways to steal their, or to reanimate something, one of which we can use on their guys. We have a Liliana we can use to answer the Looter. Uh-oh. Thirst for Knowledge, okay. So they played a land, they discarded Demon Lord. Discarded Frost Titan and Entomb. Alright, so they're just looking for something that reanimates. Do we take a turn here to play Liliana? I don't know that we do, but they don't really have anything that I really want to take just yet. I don't think they can actually get much use out of this Emrakul except for Necromancy. They need something that works at instant speed. They can discard it to the Looter. I'm actually just going to pass and see if that comes up. I have the Necromancy. If they try and go for reanimating Emrakul with it on the stack, then I can take it from under them, and that would be a pretty fantastic way to win the game. I have the Mirror Breaker and Necromancy, I think. So that's, as long as our opponent doesn't draw Necromancy or Makeshift Mannequin, something that they can use to bring back Emrakul immediately, we'll be good. I'm just going to pass and hope that they go for it. If they drew either of those 2, that'd be great if they go for it. It'll be very telling. We'll know they're going for it if they discard Emrakul. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, please, please. Oh my goodness. Mannequin, there it is. Alright. Oh. So unfortunately, wait, how does this work? I think sadly I'm gonna have to sacrifice it, but that's gonna at least shuffle back into their grave. So this isn't ideal. Man, if they had somehow gone for it at the end step, I'd get to whack them with it. That would be funny. But sadly, I have to sacrifice Emrakul here. Sadness. But their graveyard is now gone. So, what that means, we need to get Shieldred into the grave so we can whip or mannequin it back. I'm actually just going to play the Liliana here and make them lose their Looter. And so now I can plus to get Shieldred back, and then bring it back with a mannequin and make them sacrifice something on their upkeep. I think I have to do that so that I don't lose the vampire, sadly. Yeah, this is a little risky as always, but let's go for it. Opponent discards the Scarab God. Okay, that's not the worst if they do bring it back. I can Venser him away if I need to. So let's get back our Shieldred, and now their Nighthawk dies. And I have an unblockable 6/6. Oh, okay, so this is interesting. They Necromancy back the Scarab, or the Looter, and sacrifice that. That's okay. They get to kill my Liliana now. But that's really not that big of a deal. They just lost Necromancy. I guess I'll take it. I do need a way to bring this back. So I could get the whip out. I should have played that pre-combat if I intended to, because I get the lifelink with it. I think I just want to keep hitting land. No. That's unfortunate. I lost out on some life gain, but that's fine. I can now I can whip back Sheoldred if I really have to, after our opponent probably sacrifices the Nighthawk. So they gave up Necromancy to kill Liliana. I don't know if that's a worthy trade, but it worked out. So I should be at 6 life higher. Not that that will make a big difference here. I guess that's almost 7 cards with a Gristlebrand activation. But now we just need to put things in the grave, and our Whip of Erebos will whip him back. If I draw an island, it's pretty much just over, because we can buy time killing them, using our Venser to bounce a spell. Unfortunately, we didn't find one, so let's see what we get. The Battle Ball and the Careful Study. Careful Study is a nice way to put things into the grave. We could whip back the Battle Sphere. That should be lethal next turn, actually, so I think that's fine. Let's go ahead and keep him both. And keep attacking. And keep playing on our lands, I guess. So now if our opponent does answer Sheoldred, we have a Battle Sphere that we can discard with Careful Study, and then whip it back. We get all the tokens, we get the ball itself, and that should be great. Our opponent is still struggling for something over there. I think we're just going to get to kill them next turn. Even if they have like a Murderous Cut, it might as well be lethal. The Battle Ball should do it by itself, actually. If we get to attack with it. Forget the exact wording, but we can tap down untapped mirrors and ping our opponent while growing the Battle Ball. So we should be pretty good here. Let's go ahead and do that. Our opponent knows how deadly this Careful Study can be. Okay, we get a Stratus Dancer also. Let's just discard the Sphere, and we're a long ways off casting the Cryptic. And hope our opponent doesn't have some way to stop this from going off. That'll do it. Alright, so we would have gotten 4 1/1 mirrors and the Battle Ball with haste. That's important. The ball gets to tap the 4, swing as an 8 power guy after pinging our opponent down to 6, so they have to kill both of our creatures somehow if I get to attack. So that was a fun little mirror match. Hopefully we don't have to fight that again. It's a bit nerve-wracking. I think we're going to have much more fun dealing with like the big green and red decks, so we'll see what we find. Stay tuned, everybody, for match 2 coming right up. Everyone, here we are in match 2 on the draw with a pretty lackluster hand. If we had Reanimate instead of Mannequin or Necromancy, I could discard the Battle Sphere on turn 1 and then reanimate it the following turn. Whereas here, we really need to draw 2 lands back to back. If we do, we have the tools to win between Buried Alive and Necro, but then we can do better. Not really that much better, but we'll keep it. Stratus Dancer and Cryptic could be good here. Fact or Fiction will be good. Hopefully our opponent doesn't follow us up with Reanimation. Mindstone, okay. We need more blue, unfortunately. Ran into that problem last game as well. Nightveil Spectre, that's not good. Jeez. Yeah, I'm gonna have to just play this face down and let our opponent get some draws off here. That's sad, especially if they exile one of our threats. We'll never get it back. That'd be obnoxious. It's a unfortunate main deck card for our opponent. It took an island. Could be worse. Gonti. Oh, lots of ways to take my fatties. And worst of all, I don't even get to see what it was. I will get to pass with Stratus Dancer's counter and Fact or Fiction both up. Could also just play the Whip of Erebos. That's great to follow up with a Fact or Fiction. I'm just going to wait here though. If I really must, I can Megamorph this and trade with the Nightveil Spectre. My opponent did not play the island. Maybe they don't know about lands working too. I'm just going to take this one last time and get out the Fact or Fiction. Hopefully that's sufficient. Vendilion Click, okay. Not a big deal. Pack Rat, okay. That is fine. This Begarden Hellkite could be pretty strong if we can reanimate in this upcoming turn. If we find like a Careful Study and a Necromancy or something with Fact or Fiction. Brief pause for a moment, but they have returned. So let us resume where we were with a Fact or Fiction. And we have Sundering Titan, Liliana, there's the Arcane Artisan. Pretty much everything here would be happy to find. Didn't get a cheap way to reanimate, sadly, but I really want that Arcane Artisan, I think. Let's see what our opponent wants to do about it. Okay. I think I will take the Artisan. I'm happy with the Titan going to the grave. Taking Liliana doesn't really advance what we're doing here, so yeah, I'll take one pile. And draw an Ancestral Vision. So this will be a little suspect to our opponent if I play out the Artisan but not use the Preordained. They might be able to figure out what this is, but I think that's okay. Alternatively, I could play out the Whip, intending to use it next turn on the Titan. That's really tempting between the two. I think I just want to answer what's on the board already, so the Whip of Erebos kind of delays that, unfortunately, whereas next turn I can have the Artisan spitting out a Hellkite and still have, what, 3 mana open for all of these and maybe this. Oof, that's tricky. I'm gonna go ahead and play out the Whip, actually. I think it's got a higher upside. If we can get back that Sundering Titan, plus with the life gain, we'll just be able to nuke our opponent's lands, and hopefully that's enough. Here, rather than using the Preordain, I'm going to start with the Ancestral Vision. Our opponent might spit out a rat here. Okay. Kind of want them to actually play our island now from the Night Veil, so that when I get the Titan back, we don't have to lose our Underground Sea. But there are worse things. We get to take our opponent's plains in the swamp, and then when the Titan dies on the second run, yeah, we're gonna have to lose our Underground Sea, sadly. That should be okay. So our opponent can make 2 more rats. They're about to hit us for 4, plus potentially an additional 8 damage. That's not enough to kill. But the Stratus Dancer, next turn, if we have a land, we can have it still active. I think it's worth keeping the Stratus Dancer back for that reason. Probably never going to get to cast this Cryptic Command, unfortunately. But if we get to untap, and our opponent doesn't interfere with reanimating the Titan, then we'll be in very good shape. We'll get to gain an additional 7 life. We'll get to kill 4 of our opponent's lands. We do have to worry about these pack rats getting out of hand, though. Took our Shieldred. Oh, man. Okay, there's the island. So actually the Cryptic can buy us a bunch of time as well. Let's go ahead and start whipping, though. Yeah, I'm fortunately going to have to lose both my island, the Underground Sea and the island here. But I think it is unfortunately necessary. Otherwise I won't be able to have access to the double blue for Megamorphing. Not double blue, just the 2 mana though. Is there something better that we could do actually? Taking out 4 of our opponent's lands and 2 of our own, versus just using the Cryptic Command to keep hitting land drops and buy time. We could use this to tap our opponent's creatures and, I don't know, return like a Night Veil Spectre or something. Maybe they play, okay, we're actually going to give them another turn, perhaps against my better judgment. We'll see what they do here. I might just draw a card and tap all of our opponent's guys. They could play out the Shieldred from underneath. That'd be okay. I could tap all of their creatures and then bounce that back to my hand. And then the following turn I can do my reanimation ploy. Or if I find like a careful study, I can use the Bogardan Hellkite here. Let's see what they go for here. Is this a Shieldred? They're going to wait until post-combat to do it. Nope. There it is. Alright, so we're going to get that back. I could have also... shoot. I could have countered that, putting it into the grave. Either way, I don't know which is going to be better. We have the whip that we can get it back for the one turn. I think I'd rather Arcane Artisan, so I think this is okay. We're going to return that and tap all of our opponent's creatures. That should be fine. Okay, that also works as well. We could Una's Prowler and whip it back. Doesn't really help us just yet. You get the Bogardan Hellkite back and deal like 3 to this, 2 to this. That'd kill 2 rats, gain us like 10 life. 12 with this. That should work actually. I'll go ahead and do that. I think we just need to preserve ourselves for one more turn and then we can start going to town on our opponent here. Let's get back the Bogardan Hellkite, and I could also deal 3 to the Spectre. I need to kill these rats. So I'll do 3 to that, killing it, 2 to that, which will shrink it so that it dies as well. I'll gain 1,000,000 life. Going to 16 here. I'm not going to block, might as well. Alright, and now we have on demand a Sundering Titan. Oh, it was my pack rat, okay, so I don't know why it didn't say it was owned by me. That was very confusing, but I guess it worked out. We're back up to a healthy 18 life. Opponent's going to take some of our cards, sadly, but I can actually put the Prowler in front of the Spectre now. I don't really care. I just don't want them to keep taking my fatties. This way they have to discard a card to shrink my Prowler, assuming that they know it can do that. If they just spend the turn making rats, though, we're going to gain some life, kill their Spectre, and they'll be in big trouble. Alright, just discarding lands. Playing Tassie Gray, okay. Still can't quite kill us. Just gonna make a rat here. Graveyard Marshal. Exiles creatures from the grave to make zombies. Only works on our opponent's graveyard, thankfully. One more turn for that. We're at 7 mana. Oh, I can actually just play Shieldred now. I could also have access to this. I can play the Artisan and get back the Sundering Titan as well. Now I can blow up our opponent's lands quite nicely. Oh man, that's tough. Opponent has like nothing. We can just play the Shieldred. They get to hit something off of Click, which could be bad. Could actually like hit a Gristlebrand and probably cast it. We got some options here. I can take down their lands and lose one of our own and play the Artisan. That's okay. Let's actually just do that. And we'll also gain enough life to give ourselves a very nice buffer here. Alright, you die, you die, you die. Let's play out the Artisan. Attack with our Sundering Titan. And blow up 2 more of our opponent's lands. Oh, and they're going to also just give us a Tasigur? Very happy with that. That was about as good as we could have hoped for, I think. Okay. So now we have the Arcane Artisan with the Shieldred ready to go. We still have the Whip of Erebos. We can whip back a rat and start discarding to it. The original rat will die, but we'll still have the tokens left over. Our opponent's down to a measly 3 lands. I'm not going to throw away either of my guys, so hopefully they don't hit something good here. A battle ball, that could have been worse. And a tangle wire, oh dear. Beginning of each player's upkeep, tap an untapped artifact, creature, or land. For each fade counter. Okay, so 4. Am I going to whip here? I don't really need the Stancer. What are we doing here exactly? I kind of want to get out the Shieldred, so I need like 3 lands in the Artisan. In that case, I'm not whipping. So yeah, we can just tap all this, I think. And our Ancestral Vision actually comes in. Hit more land. Okay. Well, we could also get Griselbrand. We can do this at instant speed as well. So, careful consideration, a bunch of things back, and bring back Artisan as well on our upkeep next turn. There's lots of stuff we've got here. So, let us just, we're not going to careful considerate just yet. I don't really need the Entomb, I don't need the land. So we'll draw a land. Yeah, I think we're in a pretty good spot here. If our opponent stacks this correctly, they only need to tap 3 things, one of which will be the Tangle Wire, of course. So they could just do all 3 lands and start swinging in. But my guess is that they're going to tap like the Pack Rat and the Marshal and Gonti and the Tangle Wire. Okay. Let's go ahead and draw a card. Get back Yold Griselbrand. Hello there. Unless they have like a Murderous Cut or something, I at least get to block here. This would be where like a Force of Will would just basically be the game. Nothing. Okay. No need to draw cards here. We actually don't want to deck ourselves, which is a concern. I'm going to keep the Whip, I suppose. I don't really need the Stratus Stancer to be untapped to do his thing. I'm not going to think about it too much, just in the interest of time. Venser is a good way to make sure we don't die to something random, and we'll get to kill our opponent in 2 turns while gaining a bunch of life. No need to even whip anything back. Our opponent maybe makes a rat or a zombie end of turn here. Sure. Let's see what they got. Venser, I think, makes it certain that we can't lose here. Even something that was uncounterable somehow in these colors, we would still be able to bounce back to hand. So that'll do it. We're against some kind of aggressive, disruptive black-white deck. I like a Nightveil Spectre, and I kind of like Kira as well. I like Inquisition as well. What do we not need here? I actually kind of like keeping the Ancestral Vision if our opponent has discard and the like. Don't really need a Vendilion Click. Careful consideration is a bit slow. So yeah, maybe I played a bit overly cautious there, but it worked out for us in the end. I think I do want to keep my card draw outside of the careful consideration and my 17 lands. Wow, this looks almost, if this was a Watery Grave, this would look almost like Mono Black Devotion from Theros Standard. No, he's going to probably take my Pack Rat, if I had to guess. Oh, the Spectre, okay. Unfortunately, we draw a Swamp. So we could play the Pack Rat. We can also just hold on to it for now. I think we might do that. Wait and see what our opponent does. Hopefully we stop drawing these lands. Now I'm kind of regretting our decision to keep them all. Alright, Liliana the Veil, kinda outdone by these spirits. But I'm gonna go ahead and play it. No, I need a way to... I need one of these two to survive. I think I'm gonna play this Liliana. That way our opponent kind of might be priced into discarding, or flashing back the Lingering Souls. And this way I get to do something with all these lands. Maybe hit something relevant from our opponent. Geralf's Messenger. So that would maybe tell me that our opponent didn't have that triple black, or they just have 3 better cards in hand. We'll see. Oh, I did not want them to play that many cards there. Alright, so we can discard the Begarden Hellkite. And that way if we draw any reanimation, we should be able to clean up our opponent quite nicely here, killing everything. Man, if I had a Necromancy or a Mannequin right now, I think the game would just be over. Opponent got to draw a land, now they get to kill our Liliana, but again, we have it in the grave. As long as they can't answer it, then we should be fine. Doesn't want to trade off the Confidant, because they likely don't have much else going on for them in hand. Disfigure my rat. Alright. Here's hoping. Drana, Liberator of Malakir. Alright, can't really beat that if they get to attack and land a hit next turn. So this is where we need a way to clean it up. Opponent wary of a flash creature, maybe like Teferi. Alright, Sheoldred, 2, 4, 6. This is not going well. Need one more land to play her. We're probably just going to die before that happens. Sheoldred doesn't reanimate until my next upkeep. And this is first strike, so these are all going to grow now. That's bad. Cryptic buys us a turn. Taps everything and draws a card maybe. Massacre Worm here would be pretty great. See what happens. Alright, so we'll tap everything and draw a card, or bounce back something. I think we just need to draw. A whip wouldn't be the worst for gaining us life. We'd need a land as well, though, so we missed our chance there. If we had 8 mana, we could play the whip and use it immediately. Again, gain like 10 life while killing a bunch of things. 1 mana short of the Gristlebrand. Alright, we're unfortunately dead this game. Let's take a look at what our opponent... Oh, they also had a Maze of Ith. Ugh. Man, if we had been on the play there, that might have been very different. Okay, so that was unfortunate with the amount of lands that we drew. Relic of Progenitus, not that great. It does hit a Lingering Souls, but our opponent can likely play around that easily enough. I guess it also hits a Geralf's Messenger, potentially. Kira wouldn't be terrible here. Yeah. Don't necessarily need a Kira though. Let's just let's go with the general plan of reanimate something that our opponent has no hope of dealing with. If only we had drawn our Necromancy. So we saw Lingering Souls, Geralf's Messenger, Dark Confidant. That can be a problem if our opponent has it. Dark Confidant and Nightveil Spectre, both pretty good against us. Alright, here we go. If I can't win with this hand, then, well, that's not very reassuring. Question is, what do we do with all these 1-drops we have? Do we bring in the Ancestral? Do we just Entomb right away? I think we Entomb on turn 2. Also Careful Study. Yeah, let's just go ahead and Ancestral here. This is a nice redundant hand. Even if they Thoughtseize our Necromancy away, we still have the Whip of Erebos for later. I think they have to take the Necromancy. Oh, they took the whip. Alright, so they have some way of dealing with the creature that is necroed out, but that's okay. It's cheaper for us. So we can Careful Study and Entomb this turn. Ideally would have drawn an untap land, but that's fine. I don't really want to go for this Necromancy until we know it's clear. So, I don't want the Stratus. I don't especially want the Creeping Tar Pit, but that's real bad if we don't get what we need next turn. Maybe I just have to deal with it. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to be a little slower here. Hopefully our opponent doesn't have another discard spell. But if we can get a Gristlebrand out, that should do it. Oh, that's actually beneficial to us. So I could have probably gotten rid of the Tar Pit. Oh well. Alright. Not going to Necromancy the Stratus Dancer here. I will end of turn probably Entomb up a Gristlebrand though. Nightveil Spectre. Okay. That's a nice flyer you got there. Be a shame if it was thoroughly outclassed. We could get Shieldred. No, we want Gristlebrand. Let's go big. Can't really go bigger than Gristle Daddy. We also have a nice card draw coming up soon. That'll be good. So let's just go ahead and Necro. Get back the Gristlefather himself. And draw a bunch of cards. That way we can discard to hand size if we really want to. We can always do that to Prowler also. But oh well. Alright, so even if our opponent kills Gristlebrand here, next turn we've got things to do. Because we have the Artisan, I'm going to hang on to Shieldred. We're actually running out of ways to reanimate. We just have the Mannequin, really? Tanglewire, okay. That's acceptable. Yeah, we're going to have to tap all of our lands. But that's fine. Can I tap the Necromancy? I think I can. Untapped artifact, creature, or land. Never mind, we can't. Alright, I'm going to keep Gristle untapped. Just basically take a turn off here. Could also attack with him, gain a bunch of life. Oh, never mind. There's Maze of Ith over there. Alright, Sundering Titan would be pretty good eventually. Let's just keep playing out lands and discarding a lot here. We can discard the Prowler since our opponent has one. We can discard land. Could have attacked there with Gristlebrand, but yeah, Maze of Ith. I'm assuming they know what it does, so no need for that. It is going to be difficult to actually kill our opponent. We need two big threats. Mere Battlesphere is pretty good at that. They're not going to be attacking us. That's reassuring. Gonti. Okay, we have most of our things in hand that we want. So regardless of what our opponent takes here, I think we'll be fine. So now we have to tap 3. We can tap 3 lands and play out the Artisan. Opponent still couldn't kill us even if they wanted to. And then once we have the Artisan out with Cryptic Command to protect it, we can just take our time pretty leisurely, get Shieldred out, start working through our fun graveyard. Okay. Yeah, let's just go ahead and Artisan it up. Next, we only have to tap down 2 things. We still have enough mana for holding up Venser and Cryptic Command, and nothing happens using the Artisan. Can spit out a Titan if our opponent ever plays their second land, basic type. It's no fun just blowing up a swamp. We need to do more than that, I think. Very curious about the Unis Prowler against us. That seems like a suboptimal choice. Pack Rat of their own. Okay. That's what he took again with Gonti. And this time it does say it's owned by me. I wonder why it didn't the first. Whatever. I'm just going to tap a bit. Yes. And yep. Next turn it begins. Right now I could bring in the Shieldred, but I'm going to wait until the end of our opponent's turn so I can hold up our interaction. And then when they go for whatever they're going to go for, I can dump a Shieldred in play and start discarding cards at will to the Unis Prowler. Once that happens, I think it's just over. Still only swamps from our opponent. Perhaps they have Swords to Plowshares and things of that nature. Okay, here we go. Exiling Shieldred, pass the turn, in response. Oh, my bad. I had to do it I thought I would get a chance at the beginning of upkeep. That's unfortunate. I thought I'd be able to do it earlier. Well, I apologize for that, but I don't think it's going to make a tremendous difference as we have the Arcane Artisan to do our fun this turn. Let's just get our Stratus Dancer back. And now we can start attacking our opponent nicely. Go ahead and attack with Griselbrand and Shieldred. One of them is going to get bounced back with the Maze of Ith. But we still get through a bunch of damage, probably 6, with our unblockable Shieldred, of course. And we'll actually be able to have Venser and Cryptic up as well as the Arcane Artisan. So I don't really know what our opponent can do. Are they not using the Maze? Of course they are. Alright, on Griselbrand, that's fine. Play an untapped land, so we have 7. I could hardcast the Battle Sphere there, but why do that when you can pay 3 mana instead to flash it in? There's the other land. Alright, let's see what they've got. Even if it's like a Banefire for lethal somehow, I'd have Venser to bounce it back to hand. I could also use the Cryptic to bounce the Maze of Ith, get in there for a lethal attack next turn. Recurring Nightmare with nothing of import, really. Sure. So this lets them sacrifice any creature, return this 3-mana enchantment to hand, but only as a sorcery. They can do that to pull back an Unis Prowler at this point. That's not that impressive, really. So let's go ahead and get the Sundering Titan out, just to tap our opponent out, pretty much. Oh, why did I I tapped too quickly, whatever. I thought I'd be able to still use my guys, and I can. But let's go ahead and get the Sundering Titan out. We do lose an island here. Terminate on my Artisan. Artisan's really done his job already, so I don't really care about losing it. I can also just get it back with Shieldred. But at the same time, I kind of just want to end it here. Okay, I know what I do. I let that happen. Oh, shoot. Exile all the tokens. I should have remembered that part. Alright, so we're going to lose Shieldred. I think we still win, though. My bad. Apologize for that, everyone. We are going to lose all this, but we're going to return a permanent to its owner's hand and tap our opponent's creatures down. Just making it interesting, really, that's all. Why did it select to draw a card? Okay, making it very interesting. Disfiguring my Stratus Dancer, sure. Alright, so that's not what I imagined would happen, but I think we're still going to be okay. As horrendous as this turn played out, I think we're still going to be okay. So we'll take out all this land. So our opponent should not have a Maze of Ith in play. Oh, what happened here? End step. Why do I still have my creatures here? When it leaves the battlefield, exile all at the beginning of the next end step. So our opponent, yeah. You and me both, buddy. We both punted real hard there. He needed to do that at the beginning of his end step, so that, or before the beginning of his end step, so that I would lose all these guys. But that didn't quite happen. So now I get to get back my Arcane Artisan. I guess it's like a delayed trigger or something. I still want this for like the Battle Sphere if I need it. But yeah, our opponent and ourselves punting back and forth. Who will eventually triumph? Difficult to say. But I do get to attack our opponent for quite a bit of damage here. Actually, yeah, lethal on second thought. Because they can only maze back one of our guys. So, you know. Oh well. Both of our opponent and ourselves misplaying. We ended up winning though. Good game and match though. It was still fun and our opponent was good-natured about it. Definitely need to read that. Where is he? Arcane Artisan a bit more closely. When he leaves the battlefield, exile all tokens created with it, beginning of the next end step. So, apologies for the misplays. Try to avoid those in the final match. Stay tuned, everybody. Match 3 is coming right up. Hopefully, less mistakes than we have been prone to in previous matches. But this is a keepable hand. We've got the Entomb as well as 2 of our big payoff cards. If we draw Necromancy, we can Entomb up something. And if we draw our Arcane, drawing a blank on the name now, we can pull in a Shieldred or Battle Sphere pretty much at will. Griselbrand, not really what we want to be drawing, but I'll take it, I guess. Kind of reluctant to use the Entomb, but I might as well on something here so that we're less likely to draw it. And that way if we draw Necromancy next turn, we'll be able to make use of it. So what do we have left? Hellkite, Sundering Titan is going to be good in this match, I'm anticipating already. That's probably what we'll be putting into the graveyard. We've got Sundering, Hellkite. Arcane Artisan is the one that I want to draw. Let's go ahead and pitch the Sundering Titan for now. And hope to draw Necromancy or a makeshift mannequin or the Artisan. Really anything but land would be acceptable. Venser's okay, he buys us time. What do we got? Rabblemaster. I can wait and flash this in next turn to block this guy if our opponent allows it while killing a token. We'll see though. Fact or fiction? Well, maybe I won't be dealing with the Rabblemaster after all. So probably could have just used Venser there, but I think we're still going to be fine. Fact or fiction should hopefully find what we're looking for. If our opponent does attack with the Rabble, I'm actually going to go for it though. We'll play that, bounce a token, assuming it resolves, and then block this Rabblemaster. Can also put our opponent back a land, but we're looking to preserve our life total here. Okay, and because we did it there, we actually shrink the Rabblemaster by a point. And we drew out a Searing Spear. That's something. Stratus Dancer. We're just going to go ahead and fire off this Fact or Fiction. I might have to actually play the Stratus Dancer as a creature if we must. likely going to get a land no matter what we choose here, and well, I guess Preordain to help find a Necromancy would be well received. Okay, I'll take the big pile and play out just a Stratus Dancer face up. Something that can interact with the Rabblemaster. I think that's going to be better than preordaining into something. We do kind of need to stymie our opponent's attack here, stem the bleeding. Draw it on a braid, sure. So we're taking, what, 2, 4, 6 next turn, down to 9. We can hard cast a Sheoldred at this point. Probably going to hard cast a Battlesphere, though. Let's draw Necromancy, in which case I might play like a Liliana, discard something. 6. No, let's just play the Battlesphere, I think. Something to give us lots of blockers. It's going to be better than the Sheoldred, and it's just going to get Force Spiked, though. So are we dead? Exactly lethal next turn? Our opponent likely has some kind of burn in hand as well. But, yeah, I don't think we were winning there if we had just played Liliana and minused it. We will take just over lethal here. Oh, never mind, it's only 8 damage. I thought this was 3 power for some reason. Incendiary Flow. Alright, so we're against a burn deck. Blue, red, tempo burn. So Inquisition could be nice, as could some of these early blockers like Baral and Seagate Oracle. A lot of these other things don't really cut it, though. Rishadan-Port, not what we need. Alright, let's just take like an Inquisition and maybe a Baral. Make some of our spells a bit cheaper. And we'll take out the Careful Consideration and maybe a land here. Let's try that out. Dungeon Geists, Nightveil Spectre, even the Oracle, they can just die easily to like an Abrade or something. So I can't really count on them defending me. I'll keep this. We've got the Venser and a Click for some disruption. We have a Liliana coming. And most importantly, we get to start the turn off with Ancestral Vision. Regardless of what land we draw, we'll have one of these 3 drops active. Necromancy, okay. That might be good eventually. Where were you last game? Ooh, Hideaway on the Shelldock Isle, okay. Be able to bounce that at some point with the Venser Shaper Savant, if need be. Land. Alright. Just gonna hold off. I guess I might as well wait and see if our opponent taps out. I know they have Force Spike, so I don't really want to use the Click just yet. But I can now, I suppose. Oh wait, one more turn. If we draw an untapped land. No. Oh, we have one more turn? Yep, one more turn and Vision comes out. So I'm probably going to want to protect it with a Vendilion Click now. Pia and Kiran Nalaar, sure. That's acceptable. Take a look at what our opponent has going on over there. Alright, Sower is good to know about. They did have the Force Spike, and they have an Electrolyze, as well as a bunch of land. So we could Sower something back, or we could leave them with the Sower, and then when they inevitably Sower whatever we reanimate, we can just bounce it with a Venser. Force Spike is going to be pretty useless soon. It's probably better to take the Sower. Is that better than leaving them with that? Giving them a random card. Next turn we can presume to draw some land. So at that point, once we have Liliana the Veil, we can use that to minus or excuse me, to plus and discard something worth reanimating. We can also just get a whip into play, and at any time we have enough, we can make use of it. Yeah, let's take the sower, actually. Get rid of that. Alright, let's draw some cards. Entomb with Necromancy. So, opponent has the sower, but we could blow up some lands. We could entomb out a Sheoldred, which our opponent can then take. We can entomb a Sundering Titan. That might be good enough to win the game. So, let's see what we have. There's also a Bogardan Hellkite, kill everything our opponent has. And the Battle Ball. Let's just play a little safe here, take the Sundering Titan and a Necromancy that, unless our opponent has like a Pact of Negation or a Force of Will. This will be just fine. We do lose a land, but I think we can stomach it more than our opponent can. Yeah, I'm just going to leave the click back for now. Our opponent can sack an artifact and shock it whenever he wants to, but that's fine. They also have Electrolyze, which they might use here. We do know about Abrade, which they can use to pop our Titan at any time. I'll just force a block here, or take the block here. So we know about Force Spike, which means we can't go with the whip just yet. That's okay. Start bashing, and I think I'm going to play Liliana maybe. And now I can kill this. Our opponent did not tap out there, so they have, well, we do know about that Electrolyze, which they can then use to kill our Lily. Next turn they will have Sower mana available, but I think we can answer that well enough. So let's just get a Liliana down and plus it for now. Well, either way they lose the Pia. Okay, let's actually just yeah, let's just kill it. So they're going to play an island, play Sower. They're going to get my Sundering Titan, but I can then play a Venser to bounce it and get it back. I also have Cryptic Command to counter it on the way back down. Oh, what am I talking? We took the Sower. Alright, so Dungeon Geists, that's what they have. That is acceptable. So they have two unknowns. I think. They've drawn twice, once from the Vendilion Click, and once off of Electrolyze, I believe. Okay. So anytime I want, I can use the Venser to bounce my own Necromancy, and that would kill the Titan. I'd get to kill two more of our opponent's lands, including one of my swamps, sadly. So if I do that, I kind of want to hope I draw another one for the whip, but I would have Necromancy back in hand and the Titan ready to come back again. So let's actually just do that. Bounce the Necromancy, sack the Titan. Blow up a bunch. Alright, now if we get the Titan down again, we'll get to take two more of our opponent's lands and slowly but surely get there. Careful Study's pretty good. We know they have Force Spike. Not a lot else. I don't really want to lose this Necromancy. So we could just wait and then like bounce something of our opponents. Careful Study. Let's just go for it. I'll Necromancy once again and then get the Titan back. I'm going to lose all my black mana, but that'll be fine. Our opponent will lose all of their mana. Ooh, okay. Counter it, sure. That was good. But not a huge issue. I've got more coming, I'm sure. There's my double black, which I could have played this turn. That was likely a misplay. Don't really need the Baral, and Cryptic is fine. I can use that to rebuy the Necromancy, so I think that's worth keeping a hold of. More so than the Fact or Fiction. Opponent's still got a lot of action, a lot of disruption. Obstructionist is quite good. I'd forgotten about that card. Alright, I think we just go for the end step, maybe Mannequin here, holding up Cryptic Command. We do have to worry about whatever's under this Shelldock Isle. Let's go for the end step, Sundering Titan. Uh-oh. My own library has less than 20, and it was a disallow. Okay. That's clever. Man, our opponent's getting us good here. But now we get to play out the Whip of Erebos, and hopefully that's enough to get it over with. Use this to regain some of our lost life as well. If our opponent can't deal with the Whip, that will be victory. Searing Spear. Okay. I could have played the land out. I should have done that in case I draw another, in which case I'd have both Cryptic and the Whip of Erebos ready. As it is, I'll still have Cryptic plus Necromancy if our opponent taps out. They exiled a Locust God. Not going to be casting that. I think we are going to slog through all this slowly but surely. I did not actually apologize. I did not need to play the Swamp there because if I do whip out the Sundering Titan, it's going to get 2 rounds of land destruction, in which case I would lose my my second one there. So there's some mistakes being made left and right, but that's okay. I think that the Sundering Titan here will still be good enough. We'll get to blow up all of our opponent's lands once again. But yeah, I should definitely have waited on the Swamp there. Just going to click my Cryptic Command, probably. I don't think he wants me to keep it. So I could have had mana for that. I could have countered this click and then bounced the Necromancy back. But now I get to play out a Pack Rat, which is actually quite good with the Whip of Erebos if I draw another black source. So I'll take it. Our opponent's going to have like no land in hand, but we do need to kill them eventually. We're losing life pretty rapidly here. Alright, come on, Pack Rat. Opponent basically just has to win with what they have in hand. Whereas we have blue mana, enough for what we have need of, I think, but we'll see here. Stratus Dancer's not awful. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I could use this to sacrifice or to block or attack into the Abbot there. I think I just end up waiting. I can play this as a blocker for either the Click or the Geists if need be. And just make an army of Pack Rat tokens and hope that's enough. I think that's the plan. Opponent with their Force Spike mana ready to go. Oh, the scoop. That game was not over by any measure yet. I mean, it probably was going to be over pretty soon if we ever drew that second black source. Eventually, we could have brought back the Battlesphere, etc. But yeah, that was a good game. It was definitely still within our opponent's reach. Kira is kind of nice for all of the things our opponent has to deal with. It would be nice forcing them to 2-for-1 anything that we pull out with a Kira. I do like Counterspell quite a bit. I think we could do better though. I forgot about the Shelldock Isle working on any player with less than 20 cards. That is important. Alright, Brawl, I don't think we actually really need that much. I guess he's okay against Rabblemaster at keeping the tokens under control. Let's just run this back. Maybe you want more black mana, but definitely want to increase the likelihood of a turn 1 Ancestral or Preordain or Careful Study. And then with Kira and Vendilion Clique costing double blue, Cryptic being triple blue, I think that's more of an issue than running out of swamps because of our Sundering Titan. But we got, what, 6 lands from our opponent that game? 3 of our own, but still. Turn 12 and our opponent has a single blue source. That's pretty substantial land destruction. Still got to worry about that Force Spike. We'll see if our opponent leaves that in. It's pretty easy to play around, especially in a reanimation deck, especially that works off of instant speed as well as ours does. So we'll have to wait and see, but our opponent might leave it in, just try and get that aggressive start with like a Rabblemaster into a Dungeon Geist or something. They somehow stole our Vendilion Clique, was that it? No, I think that was their own clique. Yeah, this is a very keepable hand. I like having black sources that aren't swamps for later. I really like turn 1 Ancestral Visions. Let's go ahead and do that. Got our options between the Entomb and the Inquisition to protect the Necromancy at some point. There's the Necromancy. Alright, so I wish I had double black, because I could Inquisition and then Entomb. Let's just end of turn Entomb. If our opponent taps out for like a Rabblemaster, we get them pretty good. If they leave open mana, it's hard for them to deal with. Alright, so Kira is acceptable. I have my choice. We can take our opponent back down to 1 land and have a 7/10 beating on them. We don't actually lose a land ourselves. That seems pretty good. And then I can Buried Alive up the Griselbrand. And I could also just get the Griselbrand now, and it's pretty easy to reanimate the Sundering Titan then. But let's have Force of Will. Either way, we're kind of boned. Let's just do the Sundering Titan. That's always good fun for everybody. Stratus Dancer, okay. Here comes the Necromancy. There go your Mountain Island. And if our opponent deals with this somehow, they lose the other island, and we still have nothing that we have to sacrifice because we have no swamps. Meanwhile, they're hitting us for 2, we're hitting them for 7 a turn. And we still have Buried Alive and Stratus Dancer to keep our opponent quite dead. The race appears to be on. And we also have an Ancestral Vision coming up soon. Alright, Makeshift Mannequin. Next turn we have the Vision. So that kind of makes me want to just Buried Alive this turn. Same time I could Inquisition our opponent and play the Stratus Dancer as a blocker if I absolutely need it. Let's just Buried Alive. If our opponent wants to keep tapping out, and they probably won't if this was like their only sorcery thing to worry about. Even still. Let's get Griselbrand, Shieldred, and either Kira or the Battle Ball. Let's just do a Kira. Our opponent cannot race us, I don't think. There's no burn that's that cheap that our opponent can afford to like leave back the Kira to block our Titan and still get through. So we'll see if they have like the Nimble Obstructionist here or not. Some kind of counter. Nope. Alright, let's just keep bashing. I could go for the Mannequin play here, but let's just Inquisition. They've got to have something like a Force Spike or cycling a Nimble Obstructionist. I don't know what for. Spear my face. What you got? Oh no, they didn't. Alright, so they're desperately looking for a land for the Sower or the Geists. But we get rid of the Dungeon Geist, so we had the win there, most likely. Whatever. We have the Mannequin, so let's just play this face down. If our opponent does draw the island, they can tap us down, but then we can get back Shieldred or something. Oh, alright, well they're dead. There's no way to kill them this turn, sadly. It's pretty much dead if I bring back the Kira. There's like nothing that they could do to deal with this Titan. They have 2 uncastable cards in hand, whereas we can also just wait and see what they do. I don't think it matters, but let's just go ahead and grab a Gristlebrand. Nope. Nope. I'm going to be disciplined here. We'll wait and see. Could have also like played Packrat plus Arcane Artisan, but I'm kind of curious if they had the Sower there. They did not. So that will do it. That was a very fun draft. Quite a few misplays here and there, but we did manage to prevail with a very fun Reanimator deck. So stay tuned for more Legacy Cube drafts, everyone. Thank you so much for watching.